Meghan Markle's current Latchkey Kid storyline raises a few questions for me. When was Meghan Markle ever a latchkey kid? When did this happen? Meghan Markle has created two very separate stories of her childhood. One version of a Catholic school education and daily visits to a TV set where her father worked. This version she told before she married Harry. Currently, there's a very different one of a rather downtrodden life that she has elaborated on in her Netflix show With Love, Meghan. Narcissistic personality disorders lie all the time to create their false persona. Their lies are their persona. The real NPD persona is a void, empty shell that grasps at dreaming up who they want to be by observing other people's traits, deeming them as either positive or negative, and adopting those elements that they want to acquire to build their false self. For instance, they don't take up a hobby, let's say playing tennis, because they enjoy playing tennis, but rather because they believe it makes them look sporty and classy, and that was the characteristic trait that they wanted to possess and have the world see. So they do things like play tennis to look sporty, character trait. Martinis as the cocktail of choice, even if they don't like them, to appear refined, character trait. Choosing a particular career simply to impress people with it, lifestyle acquisition. Cars and neighborhoods they live in are chosen for the same reason, lifestyle acquisition. This is what they do. Enter Meghan Markle and the current version of her childhood story. When you get into the area of altering your narrative in divergent ways to too many people, you run the risk of unmasking your false self for all to see. If for one group you say you were a latchkey kid and ate cheap fast food because you were poor and struggling, yet to another group your story is you went to Catholic school, had a European trip at 16, ate at a nice restaurant, spent your after-school hours on the set of popular TV shows, even had a tiny role in one of them. These both can't be true for the same time period. If your family was so poor they had to eat at cheap fast food, where did the money come from to pay for Catholic school or send you to Europe? It doesn't make sense. The NPD doesn't care as such whether they appear as liars. Their brains can't think like that. They'll simply gaslight you if challenged by saying, I never said I ate at nice restaurants. Nuh-uh. You must have misheard me. Yeah, that's it. They play to the audience at hand in the moment in order to gain supply and control. That is their primary aim. They are confident that they can talk themselves out of any challenge to their contradictory stories. NPDs are manipulative to their core, and they rely on those manipulative skills to get them out of anything sticky, and they will remanipulate and gaslight wherever necessary to achieve that goal. But here's where Meghan Markle shows a real misunderstanding of her own manipulative talents. She doesn't comprehend that she is on a global stage now, and yet she's still using these one-on-one tactics, which she could get away with when she was in the midst of a person-to-person manipulation, face-to-face, before she entered the global stage. But now, however, one version of her childhood story told to interviewer A, for instance, can be instantly compared to a different version of her childhood story being told to interviewer B. We have the internet to do that, and the internet is forever. In the instances where the audience would be the same for both interviews, the viewer is left wondering which story is true. Some will start to think Harry's wife is lying, as both can't be true. Hundreds of thousands of people who are seeing both versions and don't happen to have personal access to Harry's wife to ask her directly which version is true have to rely on their own judgment and perception, plus perhaps hearing Meghan Markle's own family members speaking out about what really happened. More and more, the general audience is coming to see her as no more than an outright liar because of these different narratives. This isn't the first one, and it won't be the last. This is the latest contradiction that we, the audience listening to her, have to sort through. She is someone who changes her story to suit the moment like she changes outfits. These contradictory stories on a global stage do not work. This tactic is strictly for one-on-one storytelling, or manipulation, if you will. Harry's wife's image management needed to change when her global fame status changed, but she didn't. She kept using the only tactics she knew. For a global stage, one story and only one story should be told and stuck to at all costs. Conflicting stories need to have a cause for seeming to be conflicting. If, for instance, she was a poor, downtrodden latchkey kid whose parent paid for a private school education, maybe that happened because daddy saved every penny he could and you ate fast food and lived in a cheaper apartment to scrape together the tuition, as he felt that was important for you and he was willing to make the sacrifices necessary. Likewise, the trip to Europe could have been expensed by another relative, or a charity, or daddy's Christmas bonus paid for it. Explanations such as these can smoothen the seeming contradictions and connect these two things to give the audience a way to make sense of these two different stories. But she doesn't. She just leaves it dangling there. For Meghan Markle, during her years trying to make it in Hollywood, the storyline of the private school, the European trip, being on a TV set every day, eating at nice restaurants, was the childhood story designed to make her look as if she had a somewhat classy background. This, by the way, is the same story that her father and her family claim is true. Then, when she met Harry, the story changed to one of victimhood. Now, instead of being on the Hollywood periphery, as the daughter of a 3-time Emmy Award-winning lighting technician, she was now from a poor family. She ate cheap food. She struggled. She had strife. Woe was her. She worked. She fought to gain a better life. She's a survivor. She made it. Now she can connect with all those who are also suffering, just as she had. This version appears, in my opinion, to be the false narrative and the false self that she had just decided to throw in there when she wanted to go global, when she decided to marry Harry and went global. And that is designed to control us, the audience, into thinking what she tells us to think about who she is. Yet, she has already told a very different story for years that is just left hanging out there in the ether and completely disregarded in her current narrative. She won't explain it, nor why her story has changed. Slip-ups like this show how much she relies on her manipulative powers and talents to save her. But how can she save herself from being exposed as a liar if she doesn't address contradictory stories? This can't be left dangling and never addressed. Come on, Meghan. Anyway, these are just my opinions and thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is there a way to make sense of these two contradictions? In my opinion, I don't think so. Nor do I think she will. Thank you for staying to the end.